Hey there everyone, Mazarok here, and today I want to make a Season 1 Mythic Plus dungeon tier list. This has nothing to do with logs, what keys are being timed the highest. This is strictly what dungeons have I enjoyed the most by design for the season, how have they impacted my gameplay, what's my reaction towards getting one of these keys at a certain level, and just general all around, do I like them, do I hate them, or anything like that. And I am taking some of the community feedback that I have received in my Discord, link down below, into account here, but obviously disclaimer, this is, don't take this tier list too seriously, but I would love to hear your opinions down below. Is there a dungeon that I placed too high up for your liking, or too low for your liking, or not high enough, not low enough? Whatever have you not, I would love to hear your opinions down below. Please do like, comment, subscribe. It does go a long way to helping out the channel. And as well, I am trying to do this full time. If you want more YouTube content, if you want more Patreon content, if you want more content in general from me, it really helps if I don't have to work this job and an actual job. Patreon link down below. There is a Twitch link down below if you wish to watch me stream. And yeah, let's go. Alright, so right off the bat, we're going to kick off with a big one. Algeth'ar's Academy. Algeth'ar's Academy, I think, is a solid A tier dungeon. I think it's a solid A. And the reason I don't think this is S, we're going to start with what holds this dungeon back for me, and it's Croth. I just don't like that boss. I don't like bosses that have super heavy, in movement requirements. Add thundering on top of, which I think is actually a factor. You now have 3 things that you need to dodge. You have the thundering swirlies every once in a while that come around. You have the winds that are constantly blowing you around if you don't get the right thing in time, and then you have to dodge the fire swirlies on the ground in it's unpleasant. It's not fun, and I don't like Croth. But I actually do like the other 3 bosses, and I thought the tree boss was incredibly fun on beta, and it has been incredibly fun on live as well. It was challenging to the point where I needed to do everything right as a tank, but there was a little bit enough of a leeway enough where I screwed up. Proper external from a healer, it could be kind of carried forward by a team and, worked with properly. I think the nerfs kind of went a little bit too far with Tree Boss as we were figuring it out, but I do agree that it needed some sort of tuning, but I honestly love it to death. The trash is fun and engaging and has just the right amount of mechanics for me and where I like to be challenged. There's a lot of them, and you need to know what to kick and what to CC and what to do to make your life easier to avoid diminishing returns on stuns. I think this is a solid A tier dungeon, and the only thing that is stopping this is Croth. And I actually think Croth would be a lot more manageable without the thundering affix, because thundering is really annoying on that particular boss. Up next, Azure Vaults. This, if I could have a swamp-ass F tier fuck this dungeon, that would be it. I truly dislike Azure Vaults as a design. I've been calling it Spires of Ascension 2.0, and I didn't like Spires of Ascension 2.0, but at least Spires of Ascension, you could mount in. You could mount to make things go quicker in Spires of Ascension. You can't. Does it have a Bulletstorm boss that sucks? Yes, it's actually got more mechanics than the Bulletstorm boss did in Spires of Ascension. Does it have a boss phase with dumb intermissions that you can't do anything on, but try to get to a save point and just be like, okay, here we go, I'm just gonna sit here. Yeah, it does. Still sucks. The only thing that kind of slightly redeems this dungeon is the first boss. I actually do enjoy the first boss. It does require some creative tank positioning to get the right things that you need, not hit your party, picking up ads at the proper time, saving your AoE. That I actually think is a very well-designed boss, but everything past that I hate. I don't like, the trash is just garbage. Mystic Vapors can eat a bag of crap. I am the person that tries to find the positives in things where I can. I really am. I fucking hate this dungeon. I don't like Azure Vaults at all, and I haven't even mentioned the last boss. That last boss, Umbral Skull, can just eat a gigantic pile of crap. I don't like the design. I don't like the fight. There's just nothing about it, man. No. Okay? I know the mechanics behind it, but I hate the mechanics behind it. And I just don't want to do it. Every time I get an Azure Vaults, I cry inside. Like, fuck. Why? But yeah, Azure Vaults, solid D tier for me. Court of Stars. Everyone is probably going to put this up in their S tier in their mind. I'm putting it in B tier. Court of Stars is a well enough designed dungeon, has easy enough trash, but if the only reason that you have for putting this in S tier in your mind is because it's basically a free key, that's fair. I just don't think that basically a free key is enough to warrant good. I don't like roleplay in dungeons, especially in Mythic Plus. Like, I don't mind them in dungeons. I hate roleplay in Mythic Plus, and this has way too much roleplay. It's stupid how much roleplay is in this dungeon. Literally, the first thing you do is you roleplay with the canoe, and you hope you don't get the slow one. You hope you don't get the last one. Right off the bat, it's just like, why? No, can you just start us at the other end? Like, it's Mythic Plus. Knock off a minute off the timer. And just, or whatever. Whatever, how long it takes to do the boats, just knock that off the timer and just let us start the dungeon, please. Roleplay really, really hurts this dungeon. The trash is alright. Trash is fun. I really actually do like the getting to the third boss and using the using what procs you have at your disposal, whether it's the crafting node to get the felon to trick one of the bosses, the healer one, or whatever have you not. I like the alchemical potion on the first boss as well to end the fight at 25%. I actually do like a lot of things in this dungeon, but the thing I hate the most in Mythic Plus dungeon is what I said before, is roleplay, and this dungeon has way too much of it. And that, for me, makes it a B tier. But I can also see why other people would put this in A or S. Like, I totally understand that, but that's just me. Halls of Valor. Okay, this is one that has an insanely tight timer, but it's challenging. It's fun. I like the bosses. I do. Heimdall, is kind of boring. But I like the other dungeons. Fenrir is a very fun group-designed boss that hits like a truck, but you can get creative with your specs, abilities, and uses to be able to just make that fight a lot easier. Off-healing really, really helps as well, so it promotes things like, monks, druids, paladins, whatever DPS has extra healing to help out with the party to really help out. And the bosses like that I really, really like. The trash has enough mechanics that are difficult, but not overbearing, right? And actually, I really like the Odin fight. But again, roleplay in dungeons. Between the last two bosses, you have almost a minute of roleplay, and I just really don't like roleplay in dungeons. I just get rid of it. Just let me start the boss fight and let's go. Right? I don't want things slowed down by that. But I actually really do like this dungeon, and I am personally putting this in A tier. I thought the fixes that they made from Legion Halls of Valor to this Halls of Valor that we currently have in Season 1 of Dragonflight is really good. I actually really do enjoy this dungeon. I like it aesthetically. But, I mean, if you follow my channel any long enough, got Mjolnir around my neck. Kind of everything's a little bit more Viking themed, so obviously I enjoy the Valhalla Warrior Hall aesthetic to it, and that honestly makes me a little bit biased. I can fully admit that. Like, I can get it. Makes sense, right? But yeah, so I'm gonna put this one in A tier because I really actually do enjoy this dungeon a lot. Nokhud Offensive. Let fly. One of the best or worst nerfs, depending on whoever you are. There's a couple of my friends, I'm looking at you, where the Let's Fly being yelled less often is the best or worst thing to have happened to that dungeon. But this is a dungeon that proves to have a buttload of mechanics. But that buttload of mechanics also comes with having the largest map of a dungeon, being able to drag and ride in it, and having for particular zones, right? So you have the Necromancer area, you have the Granith Dragon Centaur area, and you have the Raging Tempest area. So obvious, and then of course you have the last boss, which is just more centaurs, but with different mechanics. And I understand why each one of those areas needs to feel separate, needs to have their own core mechanics around them and what to kick and what to stun and things like that, where in a lot of the kind of standard dungeon design, if you so would, where you're not dragon riding around from zone to zone within the dungeon itself, it makes sense that, you're repeating some mechanics with just kind of different mob pulls and mob counts, take Halls of Valor, right? You can choose, you're going to have a Shield Maiden in a lot of packs, and you're going to see that kind of throughout the dungeon, and you're going to kind of see the same mechanic reoccur, but just with different mystics or rune carvers or whatever have you not. So I understand why Nokhud has so many mechanics. I just think they're a little overloaded. But I really like this dungeon. This is a fun dungeon. The bosses are well designed. Granith is a little bit of a sleeper, I'll agree. But Raging Tempest is hectic and enjoyable, and there's just a lot that you can do. You gotta spread, you gotta come in, you really gotta work around with your team to use this. Tyr and Maruk does have a lot of movement, and I think because I'm a Prot Warrior main, surprise guys, I'm a Prot Warrior main, because, I haven't been for the last 3 years, that this fight is made tremendously easier by shield charge and charge. Now, I haven't done this one on a 15 plus on another tank, especially, one that might be a little bit slower. Paladins! Death Knights! Things like that. So I don't know how enjoyable Tyr and Maruk would be, but being able to negate the fear with Berserker Rage, actually being able to press that button for a change instead of it just being a dead button on my bars when, pre-talent trees where now you just don't take it most of the time. But now you actually have a reason to take it because, if you want to just negate the fear and keep wailing the boss, that's a nice thing to do. I think Nokhud is a solid B tier, and I think the only thing holding it back is actually the insane amount of mechanics are just overloaded in each zone. Every mob having multiple things that you need to kick and stun and work around is actually pretty crazy. And I think for the average player, even the above average player, this dungeon can get a little overbearing with how many mechanics there are. And I think if Nokhud Offensive had toned down the mechanics, not how hard they hit, I think that's fine, but just toned down how many they are to a point of like Halls of Valor. I'm okay with every mob having something, but the problem is every mob has multiple things. And, some mobs have 2 or 3 things that you need to worry about. And after a certain point, you just don't have enough kicks or CCs to be able to deal with things, and that kind of isn't fun. But I really love the dungeon design, and as the only dragon riding dungeon that we currently have, I think it's very well designed and super fun. I just think it's a little bit overbeared with mechanics, but that's just me. Up next is Ruby Life Pools. Ruby Life Pools, I think, is actually one of the best designed dungeons of the 8 that we got for Dragonflight. As a whole, I think the bosses are fun and engaging and have their own mechanics that are all insanely challenging. The problem is it can be a little bit too challenging. It's very easy for this dungeon to straight up get away from you. I think mob density is a little bit too compact. It's very easy to get to 130% count in this dungeon if you and your group are not paying careful attention. It is so easy to get so high up in count, and that is a massive time killer. But as a dungeon design, it's a lot of fun. I haven't tested it since unfortunately the last 2-3 days I've been incredibly busy at home and have some personal stuff going on where I haven't been running many dungeons. This weekend, I am going to be just barreling and marathoning through them. So I haven't been in one since the Searing Blows nerf, but that was one with Kokia that I really disliked with how hard it hit. It was actually crazy. But I do enjoy Ruby Life Pools. I just think it's a touch bit overtuned. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm putting that in C tier. I'm not excited to get a Ruby Pools dungeon in my thing, and I think what was going on early on as we were pushing keys, we were getting, Halls of Valor 15s, Algeth'ar's 15s, Nokhud's 15s, Quarterstar's 15s, and then we'd 1 or 2 chest them, and we get our 16, and then it seemed like every time we got a 17 or 18 in those first couple of weeks, it was just always fucking Ruby life pools. Every time, it was just Ruby life pools. And we were like, come on, man, can we get a chance at something else? And, like, at one point, like, we had kept pushing up, and 4 out of 5 of our group all had 17 or 18 Ruby life pools, and we were like, this is, like, piss off, man. Give us another dungeon. Give us something else. There's 8 of them. Like, why is this always Ruby life pools? So I kind of developed a special hatred for it. Not a hatred, but a special dislike that, might not have been there before, had, we just not gotten all of those. But we're going to see where this ends up, because I want to kind of see how well I like these dungeons at the end of the season. So we're going to review this tier list about a week before the next season's going to start, just for funsies, because Sanguine Depths was actually one of the dungeons that I hated the most at the start of Shadowlands, and then I loved the most at the end of Shadowlands. So we'll see where this progresses and where this turns. Shadowmoon Burial Grounds. Everyone's going to put this in S tier because it's an easy key to time, right? There's not a lot of mechanics. There's nothing that truly hits crazy hard. But I'm just actually going to put this at the bottom of A tier. I think, aesthetically, I really like it. Now, number 1, my favorite color is purple. If you've known me for any amount of time, I really like the color purple. Everything's purple in this dungeon, and I'm okay with that. The trash, to me, seemed to not have enough mechanics. In my last video, we talked about mechanic balance with mobs and pulls and things like that. And this one seems a little underwhelming, but not by much, right? But the bosses are fun. I don't like the worm boss just because it takes forever to kill, and it's just annoying. But I don't mind the mechanics behind the boss. It's actually pretty fun. Ner'zhul is a fun boss to work around and tank, and there's enough mechanics there to keep me engaged, but not enough to make me, not too many to make me just, puckered butthole the whole time. The first boss has good enough mechanics as well that are kind of a good test. If you can get past the first boss in your first shot, the rest of the dungeon, you got this. The second boss as well, I actually kind of enjoy that boss as well. And the trash is pretty fun. There's not a whole lot to say about Shadowmoon Burial Ground, but it's just a well-designed dungeon that fits well with Mythic Plus and is fun, and I would like to see more dungeons like that one and like that design come in. Temple of the Jade Serpent. Now, this is one where on day 1 of Dragonflight, day 1 of Mythic Plus, we got a Temple of the Jade Serpent. I had my +2 key. We did put it up to +5. It was a temple. We go in, and I'm starting to get worried about trash because I'm like, where are we getting our count? What's going on? Like, we were way low on percentage by the time we got to the 3rd boss, and I'm like, something's not right here, man. There's a glitch in the matrix. Like, what's going on? And then they added all of that trash between the 3rd and the last boss that was not there on beta. And I did not see a post or announcement about it, but it was not there on beta at all. So I got in and I was like, okay, I don't even know how to deal with this. Turns out that last trash pull is actually insane. It is the first time I did it on a +16, I was on like week 2. Just being able to live through that definitely gave me an adrenaline rush that I hadn't received in a long time. But this dungeon provides just enough challenge, just enough mechanics, and just enough reliance on your healer or in your DPS to kind of do things right, but not too much that if one person screws up, because there are some dungeons here where if one person screws up their job, it's basically a wipe, right? If no one screws up, you're good, but if one person just missteps or dies or doesn't do something right, it can easily cascade into just multiple deaths and a wipe, which is not good. But I find this has just enough of a reliance that if everyone does their job well, everything goes super smooth. But if one person screws up, another person can kind of pick up the slack, can do the right thing, can move around properly, and can just kind of fix it and push through. And I like that in a dungeon design. So with that, I actually do really like Temple. I think Temple is a fun dungeon, and I think it does belong in the A tier for me. I don't think there's any S tier dungeons this season. If we were going on how easy some of these are to like time at a 15, 16, 17 level or whatever have you not, like whatever you're currently playing at, with whatever gear you're currently playing at, there definitely would be. But when you take everything into account, like I am now, which is, you know, personal enjoyability, aesthetic, how happy I am to get a key, the amount of mechanics there are. I'm trying to take a lot into this video, but again, this video is purely my opinion. So, you know, that just kind of is what it is, but it's my channel and I can do whatever I want. So this is what we're doing. But yeah, so this is where I feel about the dungeons. I don't think there's an S tier banger this dungeon where I'm just always insanely happy to get this key. I'm obviously happier to see any of the A tier keys, and I'm happy to see the B tier keys as well. But you know, I'm a lot less happy to get an Azure Vaults key because I've already went on that rant. But yeah, but yeah, this is where I think things are kind of generally, and I think this is where the general mood and opinion is around a lot of these dungeons. And you know, if I'm wrong, let me know. If you think I placed any of these too high or too low, let me know. I would love to hear you guys' comments down below. And thank you to my patrons for allowing videos like this to happen. Have yourselves a good one, and happy tanking, guys.